So, hello there, everyone, and thank you for being here. The four people waiting, I love you all. I normally do a stream with my co host, and my co host is on vacation. And that's not necessarily why I asked Polly to be here. I asked my friend Polly to be here because Polly has something to share and some depth of conversation with what we're going to talk about. And if you read the title, let's focus on what we can do. That's kind of an important thing, I think, right now. I also think that knowing what is coming, what how the nature of reality works in relationship to what we're experiencing, to me has always been one of my main focuses. So before we bring Polly in, I showed up in this place clueless. And I have these people around me that were trying to teach me what this place was. And some of them were really good at it, and some of them were not so good at it. And I picked up some bad habits I had to break, and I picked up some good thinking that I had to learn. But overall, since I was a mid teenager, I really was trying to figure out what is the nature of this place. I wasn't trying to solve the questions of why we're here and some of those big things, but I was just trying to figure out what is this place so I could navigate it properly given what it was I wanted out of it. For my entire life, I've only wanted to not harm others, and I've wanted to do the best I could. And so as I looked at the whole place that we're in, I took philosophy in high school as a young teenage kid. I took philosophy in college. I read the books, I did the stuff, and I was always looking for answers of what is this place. And here we are now in this really crazy time, which makes it harder, I think, to figure out what is this place. So I wanted to bring on my friend Polly. Polly Nation is this channel, and we can link it. One of the mods can link it. There aren't any mods here, I don't think, but I just want to say hi, friend Polly. Welcome. Say hi to everybody, or all three of us.
Good evening, everybody.
How are you,
Um,
friend?
I'm really well. Today's been a pretty good day. This week's been pretty good. The whole week's been pretty good, apart from the constant noise of construction around my place. It's been a pretty good week.
What kind of construction? What's going on over there?
The one of the major rental companies has swooped into my neighborhood and bought up all the buildings and decided to renovate them all this summer at the same time. So there's, I'd say, in my block, there's at least maybe 12, fair size apartment buildings with balconies and everything. And at least five of those are being renovated as we speak, meaning they're ripping down the old balconies with jackhammers and putting the new balconies up to meet with the codes of building, and because they're very old buildings. But they're doing
Got
it all at the same time. If you live within a 1 block radius of where I am, it's almost unlivable with the amount of noise.
Gotcha. So you are, and you don't have to give you can be in an undisclosed location, but you're in Canada,
Hmm.
in a big city,
Yep, in Toronto.
right? In the biggest city in
It's
Canada.
Yeah, it kind of, and if you if you've ever been to New York or Manhattan, Toronto still looks really minuscule compared to anything like that. It's still a pretty small city.
Well, I'll tell you before we get into it, Toronto has a Space Needle, correct?
CN Tower, Space Needles in Seattle.
No, no, but it looks like the Space Needle, right?
Yeah, except it's way bigger.
Okay, so Brenda just said that's in Montreal.
No, it's not. It's in Toronto. It's the CN Tower.
Yeah, I thought it was. And there was a really cool Canada makes some amazing television. I got to tell you. I don't watch American TV much. There was a series called Rookie Blue, and I know we talked about this before.
I thought you were gonna say SCTV.
Oh no, yeah, that was when I was a kid. But Rookie Blue was filmed in Toronto because you can see the what building you called it that I think looks like the Space Needle
Yeah.
in so many shots. And one of the coolest things, I think they're Canadian actors, but One of the gals is now on FBI, and a couple of those actors have been in American TV, and they lost their Canadian accent. So they don't end their sentences going upward, right? Do you know what I
Right.
mean by that?
Yeah, yeah, like up speaking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is a common characteristic of Canadians. And I
Is it?
think why I think it may be why people have thought I was Canadian throughout my life in weird times. But anyway, so let's get into it. So we come to this planet, we don't understand anything. People teach us things. We adopt it without consciousness, without understanding that we're just doing what we're told. And for me personally, I kind of have tried to make sense of it. And what I have determined for myself is that we live in two simultaneous realities. We live in the reality of nature and the natural world, and we live in the reality of man's world or the mind of humans. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I can relate to that. Uh, on the one hand, I mean, I live sort of close to it's a valley. It's called the Don Valley. And you can go down there and feel like you're in the middle of the wilderness, yet you can still hear the sound of the highway and the sound of like industrial civilization. Um, there's definitely a dichotomy that that I've always been exposed to. I could totally relate to that for sure. Like, it, especially now too, because I was born before the digital revolution, and it wasn't as apparent back then because we didn't have the internet and we didn't have cell phones. And um, I remember thinking when the first flip phone came out that like, oh my god, that's Star Trek. Like, wow, cool. That science fiction is becoming science fact. I was like on board. I was like, yeah, we're going to Mars next. Um, but yeah, there's a I think a wedge being driven into the difference between what we're supposed to be connected to and what we're actually being connected to via social media.
Interesting. So, if I can ask you, how old were you when the digital world, as you put it, came online?
I think I got my first cell phone around 15, 16 maybe. So like really early 90s. The internet came out, or at least it was available to me pretty shortly after that. But I already knew about the internet because one of my stepfathers used to work in computers for IBM. And I remember him putting a rotary dial telephone onto a device that allowed him to talk to any computer anywhere in the world. That's what he
Sure.
told me, at least. So, and I believed him because I was only a kid, and it turned out to be true. It was very early stages of the internet.
Early
The
80s.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that was still the ARPANET, most likely.
Yeah, and it ironic. I remember one of the video games that I was playing was Bruce Jenner's Decathlon.
Dude, I remember that.
That was a great game, man. I could
It
never
was a
do that.
great
I
game.
could never do the discus.
You know, the javelin was the most fun to me because I could nail it. The discus, I would throw it into the fence all the time also.
So many jokes.
So, okay, so I get that perspective where you can be in nature and you can hear the material world, but I'm kind of looking at it from we have the seasons that happen in nature. Basically, the earth is reborn in what we call the springtime. It grows, it flourishes. We have the harvest in what we call the autumn, and then it winds down and shuts down in the wintertime. And then it does it again. And it seems to, in my time on this place, it seems to do it every year, no matter what we do in relationship to it. We can be prepared or we cannot, and we can struggle or we can thrive, but it's doing its own thing irrespective of us. And so for me, when I talk about like man's world, I'm sitting here looking at this air fryer machine that I use quite a bit to, help the cholesterol, blood pressure, whatever. And I love fried foods, but I don't fry them anymore. And I look at it and I can see that it was invented of the mind of somebody. and somebody thought this thing up, and then they gave it to the people that make stuff, and the people that make stuff gave it to the people that can actually go dig out the ore to make the metal or the aluminum, or they can fabricate the plastic. And so humans have this amazing ability to think something up and then bring it into our reality. And my question or my thoughts are, the natural world doesn't necessarily do that. It just keeps ticking on its own time. And it seems to have been the same for hundreds or thousands or who knows how many years. And yet here we are bringing these buildings into the reality, bringing these automobiles into the reality. So to me, I can see a clear two-tier system or a bi-level system operating right in front of everybody. Can you see that?
I can see that. What I want to ask you is when you're talking about like the timing of like the seasons and everything else, because I've always been sort of a I just pay more attention to the weather than I guess the kids in my class. Like always, since I was a kid, I always paid attention to like when there's severe storms, when there's a lot of snow, when there's severe cold temperatures. I pay attention to all that stuff for some reason. And what I've noticed, and I wanted to ask you if you've noticed the same thing, is that in the last maybe I'd say 3 or 4 years, it seems like the calendar, like our calendar that we follow, is the same, but the seasons seem to be moving a little bit faster, or they seem to be moving. What I mean is, like, summer seems to like last longer but start later, as well as all the other seasons. Winter seems to start later but last longer, or not longer in the amount of time, but longer in the amount of like months that it. So if it starts usually in, I mean, sometimes we don't get our first snowfall until January now, and it goes all the way to until like sometimes April. And where it never used to do that, it used to be like, it would be like we get our first snowfall in November and our last snowfall in like, sometimes before March. And now it seems like everything's just kind of shifting over. I wondered if you noticed anything like that as well, or if it's just me.
I've noticed a little bit of a time lag, but it's not so out of sync that it makes me take that much notice. Colorado is a weird climate. We're high desert climate, and we're at a latitude that allows for snowfalls and blizzards and horrific thunderstorms and flash flooding. I have seen that if we look at the calendar and we look at the solstices and the equinoxes, that September 21st allegedly is the first day of autumn. But when we have a leap year system where we have to add a day to compensate for the calendar, then that can't really be September 21st. It's got to be something else.
The reason why we have to add a day to that calendar is because if we just follow the moon's calendar instead of the sun's calendar, we wouldn't have to add anything. It would be everything would add up.
Well, absolutely. And so part of the mind control system to, I don't know, control or degrade or whatever humans is to put an artificial system on top of that, which is kind of the point of why I wanted to talk to you. We live in this natural world that can handle itself. And here we are laying over top of it, doing all these crazy things, making all this nonsensical stuff that doesn't help us. And I wonder if we lived within the natural world the way a little bunny does or a deer does, if we wouldn't be A, better off, and secondly, more spiritually connected to our creator.
Yeah, I think that there's probably a lot of there's probably a huge amount of the population that doesn't even believe in a creator in the first place. So this, I mean, this could be hindering the idea itself. Uh, I think what really okay, what needs to happen in consciousness as like a whole for like society is that we need to consider that there's rules that are never broken in nature. And if we try to break those rules, then something probably is going to get broken within us in doing so.
Can you give me some examples?
No, because I'm terrified to even try that. I would never try to do that. But what I can say is that if you look at a lot of the religions and the stories and the myths, they're basically it, kind of metaphorically describing a process that happens in nature that nobody has any control over. So, if nobody has any control over it, then I mean that would be considered, to me at least, like the same thing as a creator or a god, or because that's what's controlling it.
Well, right. So we clearly understand that if we plant seeds at the right time of what we call a year, and it gets nourished and it gets sunlight and it gets water, it's going to grow. And we had nothing to do with the growing process. We can explain it away and say, well, the seed buds at this time and then it does this thing. But we clearly had nothing to do with that, right?
Yeah, that's true. Back in the day, that was definitely a thing. They would pay attention to, like, certain positions of the moon and the stars, and that's what they would base like their planting season on. But with today's technology, and this is how technology can actually help improve our connection to nature, in my opinion, is that we can mimic sunlight now. I've grown things from start to finish without putting them outside, completely under lights. That's not to say that you shouldn't still take into consideration the position of the moon and the stars in the sky, because from the research that I've been doing, apparently that is really crucial, especially if you're growing plants for nutrition or medicine. If you don't, like, they'll still work if you don't pay any attention to it, obviously, but if you pay attention to it, you can exponentially increase the value nutritionally and medicinally.
Right. And also in yield. My
Yes.
family, my parents have a garden and I've helped them. They're getting older. I've helped them plant it, cultivate it, so forth. This year, I pulled out the almanac and I told them the exact day of the full moon to plant their garden. And they're like, "Are you sure Thursday? Because it seems a little." I'm like, "No, no, trust me. Plant it this day." And the yield so far this year is double what they've experienced.
Yeah, well, you know what I can say to anyone who's skeptical about this, because I was, is it's simple. We have 13 full moons every year. So there's 13 chances that you get to test it for yourself. If you don't believe it, just do it. Like, and you'll see.
Absolutely.
You'll see. So, and if you don't see, then tell me and I'll figure out what else you did wrong.
Well, and if you're indoors and hydroponic, you do have 13 times to test it. If you're in Colorado, where we have a very short growing season
You can still
compared
test
to
it
warm
inside.
climates, you can test it inside, absolutely. But you can test it, and if you test it wrong, then your yield sucks. And if you test it right, then you get lucky in your abundance. And I kind of think that's kind of what I have dealt with in my own life in most choices where if I choose wrong, yeah, this isn't going to go right. And if I choose well and I choose wisely, then it's going to be fine.
Well, I hate to say it, but as much as people say gardening is a science, sometimes the science it throws you for a loop. Like, anybody can fail in indoor or outdoor gardening. I mean, this kind of ties into, like, let's focus on what we can do now. This, to me, is a critical. It's probably the number one thing that I think what everybody can be doing now is learning how to garden.
Oh,
Because,
agreed.
yeah, that's the first thing. Like, because you can do it anywhere. You can do it in a bucket. You can do it in a bathtub. You can do it like anywhere. It's like that, green eggs and ham poem.
Well, and you can also do it in spite of the natural world, which is that's kind of my curiosity. So, did you ever read the book The Secret, or do you know of Abraham Hicks?
The Secret Life of Plants.
No, just the book called The Secret or
Oh,
Abraham Hicks.
no, I've heard of the book The Secret, but I think it's written by someone else. It's a
Yeah, I don't
different
know.
book.
I don't know who wrote it, The Secret, but The Secret Life of Plants, yeah, different deal. But there was and still probably is. It was real prevalent about 10 years ago
Hmm.
in the media and in the consciousness of people in social media, to where there was a secret method that you could manifest what you want just based on your intentions.
Yeah, thoughts become things.
Okay, so thoughts become things in the way the air fryer can be manufactured. The magical thinking that thoughts become things that I'm going to just automatically win the lottery doesn't seem to pan out for a lot of people.
Because it doesn't.
Right. So there's some kind of a disconnect between thoughts become things, intention, action, motivation, and the end result. And if you got something to say about that, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I do have something to say about that. That is kind of a disconnect because whoever's trying to win the lottery using their thoughts to become things is missing the point. Um, if you want abundance and wealth and money, you don't think about how you're going to get that money. So, a perfect example of how you would get that money would be winning the lottery. And so you're focusing on winning the lottery. I really want to win the lottery. And so what's going to happen? You're always going to want to win the lottery because that's what the universe is picking up on there. But if you focus on you already having that amount of money, and instead of thinking that you're going to win the lottery and that's how it's going to happen, you need to ditch the how and just let the universe work. That's, I think, what the message was trying to be conveyed in that secret thing. That's at least that's what I could, because like I asked the same question. So you're saying I can just sit there and think I'm going to win the lottery, but no, it's not that simple. It's actually it's actually more simple. You think about you already having the money all the time. And then eventually, somehow, which you don't need to know about, that money will find you, or that wealth will find you, or perhaps you'll even find a way that you don't even need money instead. And you'll be even more, air quotes, wealthy.
Okay, so has any of that translated to your experience, not specifically the lottery or money, but has any of that translated to you, your life?
Yeah, I messed around with it, some of that stuff, and I got mixed results. Um, what I will say is that I got I got more effective results from prayer, even though I'm not a religious man. I've prayed maybe 3 times, maybe 4 times in my entire life, and every single time I've been answered. And so it's making me think. First of all, okay, now I got to
Probably
really.
should be praying more.
Yeah, well, no, it's making me think the opposite. I'm like, fuck it. Sorry, I
No,
gotta
you're
pick.
fine. You're
I got,
fine.
I gotta pick and choose, like what when I pray, just in case. Like, I don't want to waste one, you know. like,
Oh, got it. Like three wishes.
yeah. So, okay, so, but at the same time, when I realized what I was doing when I was praying was kind of the same thing as what the secret's talking about, it it kind of made sense.
Okay. So one of the questions I've been asking myself for the past 4 months is, am I responsible for the takedown of Western economies?
I would be impressed if you were.
I would be too, and I would be shocked and amazed. But for a 10 decade or so, I've researched and checked out the money system, how the world's controlled, how humanity is controlled by the bankers, how the international, I'm sorry, Bank of International Settlements goes into a nation, loans them money, and then controls their population to really detrimental results for the population. So as I've been researching this, I'm sitting there thinking, we need to break this down. This thing's wrong. This is not pro humanity. This is not team humanity. This is team bad guys. And so if I could find a way to, pardon me, get rid of this, then I should do that. And I just kind of wonder if, I mean, I don't honestly think I could do that in my rational mind, but somewhere around me is like, dude, you could be responsible for the COVID and the takedown of the Western nations.
You mean like as an individual?
Well, as from a desire standpoint, to where I want to break down the money system and I want humanity to be free, maybe we're seeing the breakdown of Western nations through COVID and the, unemployment, the everything that's going haywire and is going to continue to go haywire may fulfill that desire, but I didn't realize what it was I was asking for.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. But there's another thing on what we can focus on, what we can do now is take whatever misconceptions that you thought you had and then fixed and then was like looking back on and saying, "Oh, Jesus, I was part of the problem and oh no, I was just one of those, you know, cogs in the whole machine of the whole money system and whatever." Yeah, everybody is. Everybody was. That's where you wake up. That's cool. Don't be ever like ashamed of that, or don't ever be like thinking that I should have been, I should have been more aware of it back then and that would have changed my life, because those are pretty much idle thoughts, and they're that they've designed the system so that when you do wake up that you do think about that stuff too. So keep that in mind, and I guess as they say in Star Wars, be mindful of your thoughts.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think the hubris of Jimmy even saying that, I honestly don't think I am responsible for COVID. For anybody who's listening who thinks I'm off my nut, I don't think I'm responsible for the breakdown of Western civilization.
No, but you know how some people feel guilty about not wearing a mask, and so they'll put it on when they go in the store so they don't feel responsible for giving anybody COVID.
Well, agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an important spiritual growing point for people when you really realize and learn that you can't hurt anybody no matter what your actions are, then I think you're more spiritually free to express and explore your life existence and your relationship to other people without that burden of thinking you can actually hurt somebody.
Yeah, because everybody has the same armor as you do, right? Like everybody has the armor of God, so to speak. So why would you worry about any everybody's got the same armor.
Well, for sure, but I can say something and you can take it as something hurtful, even though that wasn't my intention, right?
Yeah, I some people do, but yeah, that I would say I would agree with you and say that if they take it as hurtful, that has nothing to do with you. That
It has
is,
everything to do with them.
it's more to do with them. And I wouldn't say it's everything to do with them. It could have something to do with their past or their environment or a lot of other things, but it has nothing to do with you.
Right. So when we navigate this political system, this nonsensical COVID thing we're going through, it has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with how they're experiencing it.
Yeah, that I mean, pretty much. It's a giant puppet show. It's and everybody picks a side, and whoever wins is better than the other side for that time. And then usually the other side wins after that, and then everybody on that side's better than the other side.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it leads me back to one of the most favorite things I like to say to people. And it takes a couple of times going through your mind to get it. But I know you think you know what you thought I said, but I don't know if what you heard was necessarily what I meant.
Yeah, and that's there's many ways to even interpret that the way that's worded too. So that's a clever it covers the gamut.
And for me, it's a teaching tool to
Yeah,
where if you interpreted what I said in whatever way you did, that's fine. But I don't even know what you heard based on what I was trying to share.
yeah, it's kind of like that game they play in like, grade school, like the phone
Telephone game.
game. Yeah, the telephone game.
Well, yeah, Cammy, and Cammy says Yorl and Lanny, or Yanny and Laurel in real life. So if
Yeah.
you heard Yanny and I heard Laurel, it doesn't mean either one of us are wrong. and it does mean we're both going to interpret that thing a different way, but we don't necessarily know what the person who invented that was trying to do, right?
Yeah, well, it's good to know what the person's intent is when they invent that.
If you could,
If
and
you
if
could,
and if
yeah.
they would share it, and if you would believe them, right?
Well, don't they have to share it though? Like the powers that be, don't they have to share what their intent is, or they can't get away with it because it's like some kind of free will infringement?
I hear that a lot, and I'm very suspect of that. They have to tell you what they're doing to us, or else they have karmic implications.
Yeah, and so they hide it in like Back to the Future or like the Twin Towers or like wherever you want to put it. Yeah.
Let
I
me
don't,
ask you a question. Have you ever lied to somebody on purpose to save your own ass?
of course I have. They were the
Okay.
police though.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, that's good. That's probably a good one to lie to. My question is, did you give them the information that they could have sussed it out if they were really paying attention?
No,
Of course not. Why
because
would
I
you?
because I told them I didn't have any ID.
And you did.
And of course I did, but they couldn't search me.
Right. And you didn't say, but here's a clue. I might have ID in my sock, but I can't tell you that, but I will show it in a Simpsons cartoon. I mean, you
I
would
see
never
where you're
do that,
going.
right?
No, I see where you're going with that. No, I get. I'm not saying it's right by. It's just like,
Well, let's
I,
keep going. Let's keep going on this for a second.
do you think they're actually doing that?
If I were going to manipulate the world to my own ends, there is no way in hell I would ever tell them anything I was doing.
Not even as like kind of like you've never made like how do I say that? Okay, going back to like grade school days, you've never made fun of somebody behind their back, kind of like, but so that's kind of like a running joke, but the guy who's the joke is on, he's never really clued into it. It's kind of like that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, I get that part of it, but if I had a karmic reason to have to tell you that I was going to manipulate you before I manipulated you, it would be a no fun to do it, and secondly, it probably wouldn't get me what I wanted, right? So why would I spend millions of dollars and tens of years telling everybody that 9/11 was going to happen and then do it? I would never do that.
I don't think they spent that much money doing that.
Well, The Simpsons, all the predictive programming everybody talks about, and all these channels that say, well, they have to tell you or they can't do it. I think that is complete bullshit.
Yeah, see, I'm on the fence about that. I don't think it's complete bullshit because there's too many coincidental things that happen in too many shows and too many movies. Like, and some of them are even being thrown into the whole Mandela arena as well. And it's so there's definitely something there, and there's definitely a reason why they do that. Maybe it's not to offset that said karma that we're talking about. Maybe it's a different reason, but if it is a different reason, I don't know what it is.
Well, and very cool. So let's talk about that for a little bit because I think that's an interesting conversation. I'm trying to share my screen. Ah, crap, I got the wrong tab on. The people that say they have to do it, I think are misleading themselves because you don't have to do it. You don't have to do anything in this lifetime. And when people say, well, you have to pay taxes and die, no, you don't have to do those either. You may or may not have to leave your body, but you don't have to pay taxes. You can take the consequence and not pay taxes, right?
Yeah, I agree. I plan on doing that at some point.
Good for you.
Yeah, at some point I'm going to try to do that. But there's also the with the whole free will thing. Um, I think that them doing that and saying that they're kind like sort of subliminally slapping us in the face with the truth through different forms of media like cartoons and movies and TV shows, that they think they're bypassing that karma balance. And I don't know if they really believe that they're bypassing that, or if they were told that they were bypassing that.
Well, yeah, and that's just like everything else in our lifetime. We are told things that we believe to be true, right?
Well, right. So what makes these people so like what if they're being told what to do as well? Like I want to speak to the guy at the top. I don't want to you
Just
know
give
what?
me the damn boss. I'm
Yeah,
done with you minions. Get me the boss. We
yeah,
need to sort
these
this out.
elites, like, yeah, who's your boss? Who's your boss, elites? I want to talk to that guy.
I want to show you something here on the screen. I shared it and it's working. So there's this woman, Jennifer Sibel Newsom. She happens to be Gavin Newsom's wife. And if you don't know who Gavin Newsom is, he is the governor of California. And this woman is in film. And we're going to just go through some weird stuff that she has done. She's a producer and a director and an actress. And she's attractive. I mean, she could be a tranny. Who knows if you follow the tranny stuff. But she produced some movies, but she directed some amazing movies. And I don't know how well it's going to show on the screen, so I will read it. She was the director of a movie called Misrepresentation in 2011. She was the director of a movie called The Mask You Live In, The Mask You Live in 2015. And in 2019, she was the director of The Great American Lie. And I find that amazingly interesting.
Well, okay, so what do you think that is? Is that them showing it? Like, is that them like like slapping us in the face, proverbially speaking?
That's a great question. And what I would say is I don't know that it's necessarily them throwing it in our face and saying, "You guys suck. We got you by the balls. We're just going to do what we want to do." I kind of think there is a energetic reality to this place that exists in the minds of humans, which doesn't exist in the mind of nature, that allows for that kind of communication through media and through people that does direct the way people think.
Yeah. I think that if we had just stuck with our guns with nature, that nature would have provided us with a much better way of thinking by now, and we probably would have been uh 10 times more evolved, not just technologically speaking, but consciously speaking, spiritually speaking. And somewhere something happened that something came in and just started driving a wedge between human consciousness and nature and the fundamental principles of cyclical uh, uh, processes that need to be carried out in order to facilitate the next process.
Well,
The next
yeah,
that's how evolution works.
right. And well, I mean, evolution. You and I have to do another stream about that one because I don't buy any of that nonsense. But
Oh, I got some cool theories on evolution too.
the the fact that we're so disconnected on purpose from nature, to me, appears that whatever powers may be, whether it's spiritual, human, I guess those are the two, spiritual or human, they understand that if you can disconnect you and I from the natural experience, then we're super easy to manipulate.
Yeah,
Like,
totally. Like if they put a yellow flag on like, oh, don't look at medicinal plants because it's just, whatever hocus pocus blah blah blah. Then that makes me think I'm going to look at this more closely. Like anything that I hear about now that's like, oh, that's just conspiracy theory or mumbo jumbo or like that's, witchcraft or like what are you talking about? You sound like a shaman or something. That then you know what? Then yeah, I'm going to just keep looking at that more closely because as it turns out, they knew stuff. Plants know stuff. Plants have knowledge inside them. They just can't speak like with vocal cords. But if you know how to get inside a plant and take it apart for what it is, and then uh, you it become because you've grown it, you've got a relationship with this plant, and then when you use it for medicine or even food, you're thanking the plant as you're eating it, even if you're not doing it consciously. You have that relationship that then that plant goes through you. It goes inside your body. It's to me, it sounds like a way more intimate uh, interaction than even something like sex. Like seriously, like you may not get as much enjoyment out of it, like right off the bat, but in the long run, if you keep eating a certain plant that's good for you, you're going to notice benefits. It's going to take a long time to notice the benefits, and those plants may take a long time to grow from start to finish, but there's that relationship that you bond with that plant while you're growing it increases the potency of the medicine or nutrition, in my opinion.
Well, no, for sure, and that's what shamans and people have done for millennia. And so now we are in the digital age where that is not allowed. That is not, pardon me, encouraged. That is not taught. That is not part of the program right now.
You're right. But one of the things we can do to tie back into the title of this podcast is we can actually use this technology to learn more about nature, because I'll be honest with you, most of the stuff that I've learned about nature and plants and there's only been maybe 2 books, like hard copy books, that I've read that have really given me a lot of information that I can compare to the stuff that you can go online and look for. Because YouTube's not censoring everything yet, and you can still go online and learn how to grow plants, and you can still go online and learn what kind of experiments they're doing with plants, and you can still go online and learn about herbal medicine, and you can still go online and learn about how to identify trees and mushrooms and birds and all kinds of other stuff like that. I, you I hate to say it, but like you can use this technology to get closer to nature, which seems like an oxymoron.
No, no, you're not wrong. My question would be, can you do it without the technology?
You would need a teacher, I would say. Yeah, but you can, but you would need a teacher, someone who already knew, and then, or maybe books, like, because books that there's still a lot of books, and you can find them at garage sales and all kinds of cool places like used bookstores. And but the thing is with books is, like, what are you going to do? Carry them around all the time? Like, you got to store them somewhere. And um, I'm not saying that they don't have their value. It's just that with the technology that we have, I mean, you'd be better off if you did find a book, you'd almost be better off just photographing every single page and putting it on a USB stick.
Well, agreed. So we're not completely dependent on the technology yet, and we do have another way to do it. So my question to you then is would it be your personal opinion, would it be better for a human trying to experience this place at their best self to go 100% Amish, or to try to navigate the minefields of the digital world and the digital microchip and the digital blockchain and the coming things we're going to experience? Which way would you prefer to go?
I'm kind of not gonna go either way because I mean I like the idea of like full Amish, but I don't like the idea of not being able to learn something new at the click of a button. And I think that is I don't think that that's I mean a way of transferring information from person to person. I think that should be something that evolution strives to achieve, to always better. And I think that we possibly were at a level that's much better than what we are now. Like, I think the human race all over the planet at one point might have been telepathic, and we could actually communicate with anybody anywhere just using our minds. But we don't do that now. And so the closest thing we have to it is, unfortunately, a technological advancement called the internet.
Well, of course you do. If you send me a text, that's a telepathy machine.
But it's still digital, right? So,
Well,
like,
however it exists, that makes no difference to me. If you have my number and you send me a text, that goes from your mind to my mind without spoken language.
true. but
And that to me, that's a telepathy machine.
but I couldn't just think that same text and you would get it on your phone.
Not yet, but if Geordie Rose and Bill Gates have their way, you can.
Well,
Because you will have the interface.
they need to start asking the right people. There's people out there that can do that, you know. There's telepathic people out there.
Of course there are, and we know one who is in Australia who pings people once in a while, and Luna just like when Luna is talking to you.
Yeah, Luna hasn't come to me yet in a
Okay,
dream or anything, but I think it's because I'm always pretty hard to find. I keep going to the same spot. That's a different stream
got
altogether.
it. So what do you think? What do you honestly think about Governor Newsom's wife producing movies that, if you take them in context, they talk exactly about the situation we're dealing with right now?
Well, okay, half of me thinks that it's that like proverbial slap in the face, and then half of me thinks that it's just a coincidence. And like, oh well, like mostly you can't get into politics like at any meaningful level unless you have money or unless you come from money. So
So they're all in the club.
yeah, it's either the club, and this could be just coincidence, or maybe she had to make those movies.
Okay, so she made a movie called The Great American Lie, The Mask You Live In, Misrepresentation, The Hunting Ground, The Invisible War, Down for Life, The Trouble with Romance, Waiting for Anna. Do you, in your heart of hearts, do you think that's coincidence, or do you think this reality is trying to send us a message?
It seems a little bit it seems a little bit too much to be coincidence to me. Yeah, so I'm gonna just say it's not coincidence. That's
Okay,
I don't know what it means, but it's not coincidence, and it's almost I almost can't not laugh
of
because
course.
like
It's ridiculous.
it is so flagrant that like that's what's stopping me from being just fully 100%. Yeah, that's definitely they're just throwing it in her face. Like it's just too. Did they do that on purpose? Am I supposed to question my own humor at this point when I see this kind of stuff? Like because it's not coincidence. That's
Right.
not. But what is it?
And that's the fantastic question, and that's where we started this conversation, which the world that the mind of humans live in is one thing, and it is separate from the reality of nature. So in this realm where your and my mind can communicate and can discover things and can try to figure out why we're here, what we're doing, that exists separate from the palm trees and the bunnies. And in that place, there is power, there is manipulation, there is choice, there is things we can do. How does it work is my question. It's amazing to me that we're on the same wavelength, and so is Vanessa G in the chat. Love your channel, friend. Um, there's something I kind of see it as there are markers telling us we're living in a fucking cartoon. And I don't cuss a lot on this channel, but we're living in a fucking cartoon that is damaging humanity if we allow it to continue. And I want to know, you're in my life, your life, my life are small, and we're not in power, and we don't have these things. But what is it that each one of us can do to reject the cartoon, try to live in harmony with nature as best we can, or try to find our creator God as best we can? Those are my big questions, and I know they're big questions, and I don't expect you to give me an answer that's going to solve it, but it's something I want you to talk about.
Okay, remember those questions because I just want to address one thing first, and that is the whole like them like the coincidental part about behind the movies and like them kind of showing us so that they offset the karma and that. What if they don't even okay, what if they don't even realize that they're being that obvious? Because what is actually out there looking over the people who are awake, I would call it, a lot of people would call them sort of guardian angels, I guess you could say. What if that's their way of getting secret messages in to us? Like, because they know we're going to notice that.
Oh, it could be. It could be. And what we do about it is a different thing, but it could be, that could be the case.
Right. It's what we do about it that's going to count, I guess, in the long run, right?
I think so. Which is why you and I are doing a stream. Look, you and I are not going to teach anyone anything. We know we're dumbasses. We know we're just two guys on the internet having a conversation because we like each other. And we want to hope we can influence humanity going forward. But I don't think either one of us believe that we have a key or a solution that is going to make humanity thrive.
No, I don't think that we have a solution either. I think what I would like to refer to people like us as is like if you ever go to gymnastics class and there's a spotter, like we're the mental gymnastics spotters. Like, to make sure that people don't like fall down on their face when they hear a truth that could, trip them up.
Well, and I would say you are for sure. I am not that. I think I'm the guy just saying, just get in there and tumble. Just jump in there and tumble. And if it fucking works out for you, great. And if it doesn't, don't. But go for it. Live long and prosper. Don't buy into the nonsense. But the questions that come up, I think are important questions only in the effect that if we answer maybe the right question, then we can nullify everything that is damaging humanity. That's my position.
Yeah, well, I would I kind of agree with that. Okay. I think that you are actually one of those people that can teach uh, things to people who are maybe not necessarily awake or maybe new to the whole truth community, um, because of the way that you ask questions in a way that makes people ask questions in a way that maybe they haven't asked a question about, like even if it's the same question. So
Okay.
there is, I would say, you're sort of underselling yourself in a way without blowing smoke up your butt.
No, I appreciate that. People have called me humble and it's fine, whatever. I don't, I can tell you something between you and me, and we'll pretend the chat's not here and 20 people aren't watching. I have never understood my place within this reality. And I have always attempted to. And all of my whatever time I've spent on YouTube is my attempt to understand that. And I can look in the eyes of a young child, an old person, a family who's afraid in a situation that I can affect, and I can see that there's something about me that I can make whatever they're going through be better or be okay. So I tried to bring that to YouTube, and it's really challenging. I can If you and I were in a rainstorm and you had a flat tire on the side of the road and I stopped by and I fixed it, that is tangible. If you and I are sitting here having a conversation about the nature of reality, how we're going to live through the COVID nonsense, is predictive programming a real thing? Why does Gavin Newsom's wife make movies that say America's going to end? That's a bigger challenge for me.
Hey, is there any movies that she made that has the word fire in them?
Oh, let me take a look.
Yeah, I'm just that just came to me right now because like there's a huge fire and stuff going on over there, and
Where?
in California, Northern
Oh,
California, this is like a
dude,
massive fire.
we have 27 fires in Colorado right now.
Damn.
27 fires. But high desert climate has to burn in order for some of the flora to be able to reproduce. Did you know that?
Sorry, you cut out there for 1 second.
Oh, there's a yucca plant that is a cactus, and it makes these pods. And the only way the pods can burst open for the seeds to come out is fire.
Weird.
Yeah, so high desert climates have to have fire in order for them to continue to grow. And
Well,
about
wait,
every.
wait, wait. Hold on. That doesn't make any sense to me because a high desert climate probably doesn't have that much vegetation to burn in the first place.
It doesn't, but all of it that it has is dependent on lack of moisture and fire.
Oh, you just kicked me down a rabbit hole, dude.
Go, look
Yeah,
it up.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna be
spend
looking
some
that
time.
up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Guess that's what I'm doing tomorrow.
Well, at least you got a mission, right?
Yeah.
No, for reals. So, and there are trees in California, and they don't exist in Colorado, but there are trees in California that can only release their seeds if they burn.
Yeah, that's interesting.
To me, it is, and fire to me is not destructive in the way that the media makes it seem to be. To me, fire is no different than leaves falling off of a tree. So you have this beautiful tree, and it is in your yard, and you water it, and you talk to it, and you love it, and it's doing good, and it provides a ton of shade, and it provides houses for the birds. And then all of a sudden, a certain time of year happens, and every leaf falls off, and it's naked and bare, and you're hoping it's going to make it through the winter because you're like, holy shit, my tree just lost all its leaves. It provides no shade. The sun's in a different part of the sky that it doesn't need to provide shade. And then here comes springtime where you see the buds come out, and hopefully you don't get a late snow, but sometimes you do get a late snow and all the buds die, and then the tree has to regroup, and the tree rebuds, and it's not quite as big, and you got some dead spots now that you have to cut out. And then mid-August, like it is now, it's providing shade as best it can, and then it's going to go back to where the leaves fall off. So from my perspective, wildfires in the western part of the US nation are no different than a tree losing its leaves.
Okay, so would you say that the wildfires in that part of the world, or the US at least, have increased over the last 3 years, or they've been the same and the media is just increasing the coverage?
No, it's absolutely the same. I remember when I was about 16 sitting on the roof of my garage, my parents' garage, watching the wildfires through binoculars over the mountain peaks, and it was probably 20 miles from Denver, and it's always been the same.
So you don't think that any of the wildfires were deliberately set?
Could have been. Sure. I don't know how they would start. Sometimes it's a cigarette, sometimes it's lightning. So it could have been deliberately set, but they're not trying to. They're not. It's not like the New World Order is trying to burn us out, or they would be able to burn us out.
Yeah, it seems like they would have done that a long time ago if they could have.
Well, and you can, because the tender's there. The conditions for wildfire always exist in summertime in every western state of the United States. So if you wanted to have terrorism and burn everybody out, you could do it. I could do it with like three guys and a van and like three flamethrowers and a bunch of gasoline. I could burn down the entire western United States.
I'm not in.
I'm not asking. No, that was awesome. No, I'm not asking. But it could be done. And so I think these natural cycles, and that's the whole thing mentally for me that is tripping me up right now, is that this natural world exists within its own paradigm. And it seems to me that the human mind and what humans do exists in a separate paradigm.
Yeah, it does. I just want to point out a silver lining too with the whole burning of forests and stuff is that you can use that charcoal to filter your water afterwards. So it's not the end of the world. You can still get clean water. You just won't have any shade for a while.
Absolutely. And you can use that charcoal to start a fire later.
Yeah. Portable fire.
Right. And if you don't want to be burned out, don't live where the fires are.
That's probably another skill that people should learn if they can, if they have any spare time and somewhere to do it safely, is practice lighting a fire without a lighter. try to try to start a fire without a lighter and see how hard that is.
And without
Because
matches.
yeah, you might be like, you know, astounded at how
Oh,
you know, everyone's like, oh, I can start a fire. Yeah, oh, easy. Yeah, newspaper, some friggin' wood, and yeah, I got to start a fire in the rain. Go ahead, bud. Start a fire in the snow.
yeah.
Like when you don't have electricity and you need to eat, you might want to know how to start a fire.
So that begs a question. Are you thinking that the future of us moving forward is going to be kind of dark and bleak?
I don't know. I think my future moving forward is going to be dark and bleak. I hope not everybody else's is going to be the same. Uh, just because I'm making a beeline for off grid. The way the world is right now, I don't want anything to do with yous. I'm out of here.
Right.
And not obviously present company excluded. I didn't mean like I'll still be online and talking to people and
And you love the chat.
yeah, and all the truth community, your chat room, there's KBS chat room, Jimmy Jean's chat. Ow, there's my cat as well.
Why does she always bite you when we
I
talk?
know that was like perfect timing too, eh? Jesus, little bugger.
That's amazing to me. So no, but so in a practical sense, anybody who's watching this, anybody who's participating in the chat, do you your personal opinion, and I think you're a learned man who has a good head on his shoulders. Do you think the Western nations of the world are going to be going through dark times in the next 4 to 6 months?
Yeah, okay. I think it's going to hell in a handbasket. But the problem is the reason why it's taking so long is because hell is no longer accepting gifts in handbaskets.
Oh,
So it's taking a little bit longer. I don't know how long it's going to take. I mean, it could be. Hopefully, it takes longer than 2 years from now for it to really get like low. But it could take as long as 10 years. But either way, it has to hit rock bottom before it can get rebuilt. And there's a basement to rock bottom, people. So
right. So
be prepared for that too.
so I would guess that you're not of the mind that we're going to have a vaccine in January and life's going to go back to normal.
Well, it won't go back to normal for me because I'm not taking that.
Okay, but even if you don't have to take it, but do you see 2021 being anything near 2019?
Well, I mean, I already heard today that there's one state, I think it might be Michigan, that's trying to pass a bill that says you can't send your kid back to public school unless he has a vaccine or she or it, whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah, so if that happens, my my son actually read the same article today. He's only 14, and he said, "I'm not going to school if they make me do this." And I said, "Yeah, okay, cool.
All right, we'll figure
You've
it
already
out.
learned more out of school this year than you have in your whole entire career in school."
Right. So we can pretty objectively say that the reality we knew before January, February, and March COVID 2020 is not coming back.
I don't think so.
And the new normal they've spoke of in their world of wanting us to all have a new normal is something we should really embrace and understand that we're still going to have to navigate our lives in spite of what their new normal may be.
Yeah, we're still gonna have to navigate, but you know, you can put up your own sails. So
Pick out your own bridge.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, you can still carve your own path. You can still surf your own wave. You can. I mean, you don't. A lot of okay until it gets to the point where they're like actually physically removing people from their houses because they're not vaccinated or anything like that, which I hope never happens.
Me
But
too.
I'm not going to be shocked to at least see them try to fake that it's happening or that it might actually happen. I wouldn't be shocked. Is that's all I'm saying. Um, hopefully by then I'll be out of a major population of the city. I mean I don't know how many people in here. I don't want to consider myself a prepper or anything like that, but I do know that you don't want to be in a large populated density area when stuff really goes tits up. Like it's not going to be pretty. People are going to be like starving in the cities. Like there's going to be no food in these cities. Millions of people all crammed into like 20 miles of land and no food coming in. What do you think's going to happen? I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that. And
Right.
I would strongly suggest and recommend that at least if no one's ever thought about this kind of scenario before, I don't know. I'm not fear mongering here. I would just say it's better to be prepared for it and at least consider the possibility. Then if it doesn't happen, then cool. At least you're prepared for it. The stuff that you do while you're preparing for that isn't going to be detrimental if it doesn't happen. So I mean, it's kind of a half win-win situation, I guess.
No, no, I don't disagree at all. I think you're right. I don't know. None of us know what the future holds, obviously, but we do know what we have to navigate in our present reality. And I was trying to explain to a woman at my job that she was really, really despondent about what's going on. And my work has been crushed by the county health department, and we can't do what we normally do, and we're trying to do what we can do, and it sucks, and nobody likes it. And I took her aside and I said, okay, but in this moment, with you and I right here, right now, you tell me what's wrong. And she didn't have an answer. And I said, okay, so and so, in this moment, everything's fine. It's not what we want it to be. It's not what we hoped it's going to be. It may never come back to that. But right here, right now, with you and I, there's not a problem. We're good. So take a deep breath, step back, and realize that in this moment, everything is fine.
I'd say that's a valuable thing to have in your back pocket at all times. Just realize that at that moment in time that you got this. You're still there. You're still breathing. There's nothing wrong, really. You might have emotional things going on in your head at that time, but that's all it is. It's not going to change the time you're in.
A fictional future that you have yet to experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And or it's a fictional past that you don't actually remember correctly.
Or it could be a fictional future that's been subliminally placed inside your mind via mass media, advertising, and all the other
Slash,
Hollywood whistles.
yeah, slash AI,
Yeah.
slash all of it.
Slash algorithms.
Algorithm will never lead you astray on purpose. I could be wrong, but I will never lead you astray on purpose.
Yeah, you're the only algorithm I trust.
Thank you. That's nice to hear. Um, and so, like, I'm watching Chan, I'm reading, I'm listening, and many of us are not going to take a vaccine or go into the B system or whatever, and we have anxiety over it now, but it doesn't exist yet.
Do you think they're going to actually enforce a vaccine on the entire country?
I think they're going to try. There is a ruling in from 1909 in Massachusetts, United States, where the Supreme Court of Massachusetts said because it's in the best interests of the community, you will take your vaccine. I'm not shitting you. You can look it up. I think I did a video about it, but the guy said, "No, no, I'm not doing it," and he got arrested. And it went to the state Supreme Court, and they said, for the health interests of the community, you have to. So we have legal precedent in the United States, and people don't like to hear this at all. But we have legal precedent in the U.S. where a mandatory vaccine stands up to words written on paper in their law system. It doesn't stand up in real reality world, because in the way that that coyote goes to get that bunny, and that bunny ducks in the hole, and the coyote slams against the rock, and he doesn't get that bunny, that can happen when they try to vaccinate me.
Yeah, totally can.
They can be thwarted.
Yeah, they can. I'm wondering if that case that you're talking about is because maybe that guy wasn't aware of the how the rule of law works. Um,
He
when
stood,
when
yeah,
dealing with these people,
you're
like,
right. He stood within their law and he lost.
yeah, yeah. See, you can't stand within their law because their law is below the law of a living man or woman. Uh, um, Apparently, the word person is not encouraged when talking about this kind of stuff, because that's kind of like playing into the whole legal thing. So
Absolutely.
perhaps this guy didn't realize that he was being manipulated by the
By the
law.
court. Yeah,
Yeah,
by the court. And irrespective of that, the court will take that and they will say, Mike, you as a man are still subject to it because of this precedent in law. And I will either have to have a better legal argument against their contract or I will have to kill them.
right. But you won't be able to kill them when they take your guns away. But because I I saw something today that Trump wanted to do. He wanted to bypass due process to take guns away from people that were deemed mentally unstable. So that basically opens up anybody who owns a gun. Um, they can say, "We are mentally unstable. We're taking your gun," and you don't even get to go to court to argue it until we're done doing what we're doing.
Were you watching Richie from Boston? And you can admit it. It's not a
Maybe
joke.
it might have been him. Yeah, it might have been.
So
It might have been.
18 months ago, when that clip came out, I made a video on that.
No way.
Yes. And I could probably go find it and play
Oh,
it
it's that
here.
old? I thought it was new. Oh, never mind then.
No. Yeah. No.
Oh, boo, Richie.
Well, and I will tell you, I don't disrespect Richie because I think he's trying his best.
So do I. I don't disrespect him either. I think he'll find that funny if he's listening, which he probably isn't.
No, he's not. But I think Richie's IQ quotient may not be as high as the viewers think it is.
So
Does that make sense?
we can covertly estimate his intelligence, is what you're saying.
Sure, he's kind of a dummy.
Well, you didn't have to go and blow it.
I like to lay it out there as best I can.
I don't
I don't.
care.
I haven't made very many videos about Trump because I don't buy the two-party system. I think
Yeah.
it's nonsense, and I, for the life of me, can't find this video right. Oh, here we go. I'm going to queue up this video. It's 2 minutes and 46 seconds. I made it March 16th of 2018.
Nice.
And we are going to Sven P, my friend, over the pond. Nice to see you. We're gonna play this video if I can
This
do it right.
this is awesome because it'll give me time to go into the chat and not ignore them. Sorry, chat. I do see you, but I'm multitasking like in training.
Okay, so mute it up there, buddy. I'm gonna play this video and we'll see if it plays.
Yo, that.
We don't use that term crazy, Mr. Cole.
Oh boy, we are in big
Oh, it's buffering. Oh crap.
trouble.
Hey YouTube, so the other day I made a short video about House Resolution 5087. It's where they want to not let people purchase semi-automatic handguns from here moving forward. What's more disturbing was this article I read on shftplan.com. Seattle police begin Nazi-style gun confiscation. No laws broken, no warrants, no charges. So, if you don't think it's happening, I think it's happening. I'll put the link in. Take a look, and hey, thanks for watching.
you in your meeting with governors earlier this week, individually and as a group, we spoke about states taking steps, but the focus is to literally give families and give local law enforcement additional tools if an individual is reported to be a potential danger to themselves or others. Allow due process, so no one's rights are trampled, but the ability to go to court, obtain an order, and then collect not only the firearms, but any weapons in the possession
Or
of that
might
individual.
take the firearms first and then go to court, because
No one's rights are trampled, but the ability to go to court, obtain an order, and then collect not only the firearms, but any weapons.
or might take the firearms first and might take the firearms first and then go to court.
Okay, so there you go. 2018.
Yeah, thanks for showing me that. That's it. Okay, here's it's
Go ahead.
so okay. A lot of things that come out when people make videos, and I'm actually I do the same thing, and this is kind of an experiment that I'm gonna probably keep doing. Is you take footage from somewhere. I'm not saying even take somebody's video or anything, but take footage from somewhere, and through editing and context building, using editing, you can change the message of the original video, or give a sort of a false pretense as to the authenticity or the time that video was made, or
And put in
all
some
kinds.
creepy music.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, well, yeah, the whole music. Yeah, that, exactly. Like that's just like the nail in the coffin when you add the power of wordcraft and music together. I mean, yeah, that was a. I just learned a really, really important lesson there. Actually, thank you.
Okay, so tell me the lesson you learned.
Um, take less stock in what I view and other people's opinions as
Amazing. Yep.
just like even less. I already took less. Like it seems like the older I get, the less stock I take in anything anybody says on the internet now. It's like you can't even watch a video anymore without thinking, okay, where is all the source material coming from? How much of the source material was fucked around with and edited and made and manipulated to suit the purpose of the person making the video? I've done that. Like I just did that like the other day when I took a 5-minute video off of YouTube, and at the end of the video the guy says you can edit, chop, translate, do whatever you want, post it on your own YouTube. So I did it, and I was just for practice. And I totally, if you go look at the original compared to the one I posted, you'll see it's completely different. It's a totally different vibe. It's a totally different almost context. It's still the same message at the end of the day, but it's totally different context. And you can see what I did when you certain things that I cut out and certain things that I left in, and I rearranged some of the things that people said as well. Like they would say one thing first, and I was like, no, you're not going to say that thing first. You're going to say that you're going to say this thing first, and then that thing afterwards. Like you can do that. It's really easy, and
Okay,
people do that all the time.
So let's add in the deep fake technology.
Oh yeah.
Let's add in the AI influence into our reality, and you tell me.
I don't even want to imagine what the AI is capable of doing with this kind of technology, because I wouldn't be surprised if half of the movies we've seen in the last 10 years didn't even have real people acting in them.
Agreed.
The AI it's at least 50 years ahead of what they're telling us it is, in my opinion, because most technology is at least 50 years ahead of what they let us get our hands on. Like until it becomes a consumer level, it you don't know about it. And they've had cell phones for 50 years before we had our hands on them. They had all this stuff 50 years before we had our hands on it, at least, probably more in some cases.
Right. So as we try to navigate our waking life, we look to things that we're attaching to and trying to make sense of and trying to hold on to. And in the end analysis, 100% of it is subjective and most of it is complete bullshit.
You're right. Most of it is complete bullshit, but there is a weird um there's something really ironic about the whole thing, because what I think that technology is striving to do is get better and faster, and guess where they're looking for models to get, faster and smarter and more efficient.
Tell
And
me.
a lot of people say, oh, it's quantum. Yeah, it's quantum. But okay, mycelia and nature and mushrooms, they've been doing quantum for like millennia. So that's where they're looking now. That's where they're gonna, like, even Star Trek predicted it with the mycelial computer that was based on mushroom mycelium to make the network for the computer. That's that's where they're looking. It's so ironic to me that they get to a point where they're like, okay, we can't get any faster, so we need to find a different way of doing stuff so we can get faster and better, and keep this technology evolving. And yeah, lo and behold, they turn to nature.
So
So
we have to try to replicate nature to achieve our goals. And the whole time, had we been working with nature, we wouldn't have had those goals that we need to even bother to achieve because we would live in harmony.
yeah, or we would have already achieved those goals in a lot less time, maybe, perhaps. That's an optimistic way of looking at it. I mean, there's also the argument that nature made us so that we could make technology smart enough to teach us that nature is actually the way to go. So it could be a natural progression. Um, because without us, I don't think technology would exist, and without nature, I don't think we would exist. So that begs the question: why would nature put somebody, or a species or a race or whatever you want to call us, on the planet that was so detrimental, that wouldn't help its own purpose in the first place?
No, agreed. I think you're exactly right. So we're going to take, do you have time to take a quick musical break?
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm going to try to play something, and if it doesn't play, just sit there in silence because if I don't use the bathroom, it's going to be not fun.
yeah, cool.
So PPP, folks, and we'll be right back.
You should have played Yellow Snow by Frank Zappa.
Okay, friend.
I'm
Are you
here.
there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So, sorry if the volume is low. I apologize. A super important song from my viewpoint. It's just a ride. We're doing our best. We are trying to navigate the reality we experience. We're reaching
Keep your
out.
hands and legs inside the vehicle.
Yes, and make sure your seatbelt is buckled. And we are trying to reach out to each other. And I can see that so much with my little tiny channel and the KBSers and people who from J. Chris and everybody who has found themselves here. We're all trying to reach out to each other to navigate this reality. And so that's kind of why I want to talk about what we were talking about.
Let's do it.
No, that's why we did the stream. But so let's go to the final topic, why we were misled our entire lives.
Sorry, you cut out for a second there? My bad.
No, why we were misled our entire lives.
Oh, I think that we're there. If people actually knew the connection that we're supposed to have with nature, then I think people would be a lot more empowered. A small example of that would be if like a lot of people don't know that, like, if you go to the grocery store, you buy a tomato, you can't just put a tomato seed in the ground. Like, there's stuff you got to do to it first before you can plant it. But like, maybe tomatoes a bad example, but any sort of vegetable that you buy in the grocery store, you could take those seeds from that vegetable and never have to go back to the grocery store ever again if you had that connection with nature, like, i.e., the knowledge on how to grow the plant and what the relationship that plant needs with its surroundings. And not only do you get the food from that plant, but you get a lesson from nature to as to how to, like, be a caretaker, which is, I think, what we're supposed to be here for. Is it we're Why would we be here if it, like, we must have some use to Mother Nature, because Mother Nature wouldn't put us here unless it was she needs someone to take care of us. I always refer to Mother Nature as she. I'm never going to stop doing that. I'm always going to refer to God as he. I'm never going to stop doing that. So it's just who I am about, like, those two things with the whole
Dude,
pronouns. That's just always how I'm going to do it. And I just want to clear that up now so I don't have to do it later.
we are great fertilizer. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, well, we totally are. In fact, I don't want to be cremated, and I don't want to be buried in a coffin. When I die, I want to be put in like an acorn sack, with one, like, I'll just be the food for a sapling and of a tree somewhere. And yeah,
For
I want.
me, just throw me on the side of the road and leave me to the fucking crows.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I'd rather be a tree, but that's cool too. Roadkill
So-
is a good way to go.
Here's I'm good being roadkill, but so here's a question. Preliminal said, okay, algorithm, okay, I've thought about this in many angles. If someone is stuck, what do you tell them? And I'm guessing Preliminal is saying stuck in the mental fiction of reality. How does one person rise above whatever is holding them back? Was his follow-up comment. And I would say nothing is holding you back except for yourself. Period.
Yeah, like in a rut or whatever you want to call it. Like there's different names for it. I just asked for help, and
Which is good, but the point from my viewpoint is you're not stuck. You think you're stuck. Let me tell you a quick story, Polly. I was working for a company that sucked. It was horrible. And I don't own a washing machine. I go to the laundromat. And I don't live an extravagant life in spite of the Batman persona. I don't have a lot of money in cars and technology. I live pretty small and I don't mind it. But I was sitting there doing laundry and I'm like, okay, so what is it I'm going to do next? And I had skills in irrigation and fixing people's sprinkler systems. I'm like, well, I'm going to make a sprinkler company. And I did. And so if somebody I know is stuck with whatever mental construct they're stuck in, I would ask them, what is it you can do to not be stuck? And if they don't have an answer, I would say, hey, spirit and physical, hello, question mark. I would say find whatever it is you can do and do that, and you will no longer be stuck. And before you tell me your story, Polly, do me a favor, because generally Felicia does this for me. Shout out the chat, will you?
okay, this is my first chat shout out. Well, we got Spirit and Physical, which you just shouted out. We got Jax Jinx. Yo. We got Moonbeam 123. We got Preliminary. Yeah, see, my monitor is not doing really.
All right, I'll tell you what. I'll give
We
you a
got-
break.
Yeah, do it.
I'll
Give
cut
me
you
a break.
I'm just gonna jump into the participants. I'm gonna say Xavier, thank you for being here. The Apple Man.
Yeah,
You're
see, I
here.
don't even see that guy. The Apple Man? Sorry, I missed you, bud. I didn't see you.
Sven P, my friend from the UK. You have to give me a book review soon, buddy. I mailed you a book. You got to give me a review. Super Champion Rocker, Spirit and Physical, Preliminal, of course, Moonbeam, Long Reach One, Jax Jinx, Brenda Mitchell, if you're still here. I have no mods here, but it's a good thing because nobody gives a shit about my channel, so I'm happy about that.
I'm a mod.
But you're not in the chat, sucker.
Yeah, I am.
Are you?
Yeah, want to see?
I can't even see you there.
There you go.
There you go, Paulie. You've been lurking.
That's all I can manage to do at the same time.
That's fine. No, I know it's a weird thing, and people don't even understand how much mental energy it takes to stream, chat, type, blah blah blah. It does.
Yeah, the chat thing's gonna take some practice for me.
But it's fun. Brenda's still here. Brian Cantanel.
Shalom.
You know, Brian is like my Italian guy who's got my back. But anyway, I think we were misled because they want to deplete our energy. They want us to continue to parasite off of us at every step. And if you have a job in the Western world, you have to give a certain amount of your money to the system or to the government. And to me, it's no different than when my ancestors were serfs up in Ireland and they grew 10,000 potatoes and they had to give 3,000 potatoes to the king. To me, it's no different.
Yeah, it's I feel like this whole thing is a bit cyclical. Like we've been here before. It's gonna fall down just like
it has before.
Yeah, just like it has before, except this time there's gonna be a lot more people involved.
Well, yeah, and you think of a nation like America, and before we keep going, Sven P, you and I are going to do a stream soon, brother. I would love to catch up with you. 340 million Americans allegedly and 370 million guns. If America turns into a civil war slash revolution slash whatever it is, it's going to probably be the bloodiest insurrection the world has ever seen.
Yeah, and I would say that the numbers on the gun count have probably been deflated a little bit because
Probably so.
there's all the ones that are not accounted for too.
Absolutely. And so it seems to me they're clearly trying to demolish the Western nations, including all the Queen's nations, your country, Australia, New Zealand. Well, South Africa's already gone, different story, but it appears that America's next. And we're going to have to ride through it as best we can. And I was thinking about that because there's a book called The Gulag Archipelago that I have mentioned numerous times, and I wish Felicia, my friend, would read it. They went to the Gulag. They had an experience. It was horrific. He survived. Solzhenitsyn survived. I'm going to have to write that down so I can pronounce his name better. But Alexander Solzhenitsyn survived, wrote a book, and we're going to survive. We're going to be fine. It might not be the McDonald's land and happy paychecks and stuff that we're used to, but we're going to make it through. And I hope everybody in here, anybody who's still watching us after an hour and a half, understands that no matter how bleak it gets or whatever we've talked about, we're going to be all right. And we all have an expiration date.
Yeah, and this isn't all there is too. So even if you don't make it, it's not all there is. There's a reason why you didn't make it if you don't make it, I guess.
Well, yeah, I tell you what, me and my stepfather have been through some serious traumatic physical experiences to where every doctor and everybody around us said you should be dead, and we're not dead. So when creator, God, the universe, whatever you guys want to call it, when it punches your ticket, you're out, because people slip in the bathtub and die, and other people go 237 feet over a cliff and they don't die, and there's no rational reason for that. When it's your time, it's your time. When it's not your time, do the best you can. Enjoy every second. Go into a chat, spew some nonsense, talk about something, do a live stream, build a channel, get your voice out there, because each one of you who hear me and hear Paulie and I tonight, each one of you are as important as the stars in the skies, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that because we need people to just leave somebody's truth because you have information that contradicts it. If you can at least get to a point where it doesn't turn you into somebody who just gets defensive and like you're being completely ridiculous, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you can somehow rewire your acceptance chip or whatever you want to call it to just allow people to have a difference of opinion. Like, it's okay to have a difference of opinion. It's not opinions are opinions because they're opinions. They're supposed to be someone's opinion. So if there's no one here, then there are no opinions. So everyone's going to have an individual opinion. Even if they agree, it's going to be slightly different. So it's all about it, like, it's accepting the difference of opinion as well as integrating that difference into your own perspective, so that when you come across somebody that has the same disagreement or difference of opinion, that you're better able to deal with these people without freaking them out and turning them into like mask wearing eye dagger throwing you know what I mean?
The little Karens who berate you when you walk through a 7-Eleven without a mask, of course.
Yeah.
The darkest thing that I see is this whole situation, at least where I'm at, has turned good people into petty tyrants because of a belief system that doesn't exist in nature. There is no natural, we're not watching natural results of a pandemic where people are dying in the streets and we have to walk over them and bring out your dead and we have mass burials. None of that shit's happening. However, the people who are in the mind world believe that's what's going on and they're acting in ways that is a against their creation and secondly against even who they thought they were, and it's really really traumatic to watch the entire Western civilization break down over something that's just complete bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, even if it wasn't bullshit, it's still astounding that civilization has gotten to a point like this. Even if it wasn't bullshit, like even if this was completely true and they've already told us that they're saying, the numbers for COVID deaths they're not what you think they are because if you have it when you died, but you died of something else, you're still going to be labeled as a COVID death. They've,
Right.
they've flat out told us that. So I don't understand why people didn't keep that in their head. There's a lot of that going on. So it's a 98 or 99.8% survival rate if you're in perfect health. And so why did these people in perfect health need to be wearing a mask when like in 2003 with SARS, I was allowed to pay $10 to go to a concert that had probably close to 500,000 people. It could have been more. In an airplane field, no social distancing, no masks, no anything. Some of the people there weren't even wearing clothes. It was an awesome concert. But there was no fear of anything. It was, you know what? Everybody was there to raise money for the victims of of SARS. I mean, at the time, I didn't realize what was going on, but looking back on it, I'm laughing at it now.
You realize how you got sucked into helping people with SARS
It
when
was a great concert, though. It was only $10 too. It was
when
like
they
a
didn't
mini
need the help.
Woodstock.
Yeah, but they didn't need the help in the first place.
I know. But you gonna pay $10 to see the Rolling Stones and AC/DC on the same bill?
Bingo, you got to. And
Right.
a friend of mine at work, he put it really well. We were talking about all this stuff and how it's affecting the racetrack and blah blah blah. And he said, "Okay, so if it's real or not, it makes no difference because all you need to do right now is find your relationship within the chaos and still try to live your best life."
Yeah, and I think that you should try to help people you should try to find the people that are of like mind and help them help other people. If you
That's
can,
what, dude.
as much help as you can give back is what it. Just keep pouring the help out.
That's why you and I are doing this stream.
Yeah, that is why we're doing this. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly why. There's other things we could be doing, and I like talking to you, and I love the chat. I like anybody who follows my ridiculous channel and comments. I love you because you must be as half off center as I am, and I appreciate that so much. I mean, sincerely. I don't know if I come across as a sincere person in the videos I make, but I do respect and appreciate everybody who participates with this YouTube channel experience that I'm making. And to be able to talk with my friend Polly for an hour and a half, to me, it negates whatever nonsense bullshit I had to deal with today when I walked through the grocery store and they looked at me without a mask. And in reality world, I have a diminished lung capacity, so I have an excuse. But the mask doesn't hurt me, but I just don't wear it anyway. And so then I have to have the conversation about, well, I have diminished lung capacity, and you can't, blah blah blah. And it's a whole thing that I wished I didn't have to do. In spite of that, we're here now. You and I have had a great conversation. I would like to ask you before we go, is there anything else you would like to share because I think you have a ton to share, and we are not in a time limit. Just tell me what you got, brother.
I would say that for this stream, my parting thoughts would probably lean towards if you can't, because I've had this problem. If you can't convince somebody of a truth or the state of the world, like how it's being presented, if a loved one has a difference of opinion or perhaps an inability to see what it is that you're trying to say to them, I want you to just don't even bother with that anymore. Just
Love them
pretend.
anyway.
Yeah, just pretend like especially if you really really care about them, just pretend that you like never woke up with them, because they you're it's a you can't I always say this, you can't help the helpless. So don't, like, your energy is better spent on trying to help somebody who's capable of receiving the help, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Not to say that you just throw all the love for that person out the window. No, of course, keep that, but keep that in mind and respect the fact that some people just can't be woke. They're it's not in the cards for them this life.
For sure. And you can love them and respect them and nurture them and help them try to live their best life and try to navigate this place, because I will tell you, as aware of the stuff that you are or I am, it's hard to navigate when you're awake. It's got to be super hard to navigate when you're not awake. And what my personal mission is, those who are not awake, who but like look and want to ask a question or want to hope that they can learn something from me, I put my arm around them and I say, you know what? I will stick in this with you, but you're on a journey that is going to be challenging. And if you really want to know, I will answer. And if you don't want to know, that's okay too, because I'm still going to stand right by your side. And I would say, everybody in the chat, thank you for standing beside Paulie and I, because he and I could have a conversation offline without you guys, and it would be fine, and we'd have the same kind of conversation. But I personally am so thankful that you're here, and I appreciate you guys chiming in, chatting. I love it when you comment on my videos. I hope you follow Paulie Nation as he builds his channel, and everybody else. There used to be the three dots you could click and you could follow the person immediately, and YouTube took that away because they want us divided. So fight for connection. That's what I would say, Paulie. As I leave this for the chat and for you, I would say fight for connection. I grabbed you an hour and a half ago. Well, not really, but an hour and a half before we started, and I said, hey, do you want to stream? And you had some logistics, and you're like, yeah, I'll do it. Because
Yeah, I just had to go for a little walkabout just to, yeah.
But you made that work so you could be here, and you fought for that communication that you and I could have.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, I like the off the cuff, spontaneous, kind of things. I'll always be available, especially if it's spontaneous, until I, integrate myself back into.
or until you get 10,000 subscribers and forget about algorithm, but that's another story.
Yeah, whatever. That's never gonna happen.
but but you with the new avatar with the sunglasses is awesome. Nice to see your face. One of these days I may show my face. Still time will tell, but but all you guys who are here now, I think our job is to continue to hold on to one another and support and share and all that stuff, because what's probably coming is less than we want, and it's probably not very happy. But
Yeah, and I would also say, just as a backup plan, if you can kind of build these same sort of connections that we all have online, that we seem to all lack in, well, maybe not all of us, but I do, at least in quantity, lack in real life. We should try to look for that in real life too, because if the power goes out, we don't got any internet anymore. So
Yeah, for sure. I meet your neighbors, get
yeah,
to know them. If you can build a community, if you're ambitious enough to build community, now is the time. If you're not and you want to be the gray man, good on you. But what else? I'm just rambling, so I'm going to quit rambling. And I'm going to say thank you for everybody who is here. Thank you, Polly, aka Polly Nation in Kev Baker's world. And Polly, in your own world, what is your channel? Can you drop it in the chat?
I can drop it in the chat. It's one pollination. I think actually, if you type in, it's the number one pollination. If you actually type it in now, I think you can actually get there. But I'll drop it in a second.
If you have a second. King Sweet, thanks for being here, brother. Brian, good to see you there. Rotman, always. The Apple Man, aka Collins Matthew. I'm just shouting out the people that we didn't shout out before because my partner in crime, just kidding. Long Reach One, my friend. Always good to see you. You are a rock. Brian Cantanell. Oh, we talked about Brian. But here's the best YouTube name. It's better than mine. Mine's pretty good because it makes you think of the algorithm. But the best name in chat is Super Champion Rocker. And I love it when Super Champion Rocker is around. So I think we're going to let it go. You got anything else, Polly?
No, I don't. Not till the next time. I'm gonna save everything until the next time because we got so many things we can talk about, brother.
For hours. Chappelle, thank you. I know you made it late. Brenda told us you were out buying stuff or being mean to somebody. I'm not sure how that worked out, but yeah, we'll do it again. And if you can watch the replay, fun. And if you want to comment, I love it when you guys comment. So if you want to comment, just go once it ends, just say comment. I liked it. I saw it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And we are out of here, guys. Thank you very much.